Welcome to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. METC is a nonprofit organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri, with a mission to motivate, engage, transform, and connect all learners to advocacy, partnerships, and professional learning opportunities. METC is a premier affiliate of ISTE. To learn more about METC, follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. You may also check out our website at metcedplus.org. METC is a program of Education Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org. It is now time to begin our current episode. We thank you for listening and enjoy the learning. You have tuned in to another episode of the METC Podcast. This is the third installment of the special series for CS Week 2018, Computer Science Week 2018. My name is Jonathan Lee. I am your host, as usual. I just got off of a Zoom connection with an amazing educator named Garrett Gross. He's up in Chicago. I didn't hold it against him. He is a Cubs fan. But we had an awesome conversation about coding in the classroom, getting it involved with, integrated with all the curriculum, and then specifically Sphero. He is a Sphero hero. That is their EDU program they have, and he does a lot with them. And so we had a great conversation just of the different ways he is integrating this little robot into his classroom, from 4-year-olds all the way up to 14-year-olds. And he said he knows people that are using it in college too. So it's a very versatile tool, just amazing. So a lot of the information we didn't get to because we ran out of time, but it is available in the show notes. Check that out at metcedplus.org. That's metcedplus.org. Be sure to connect with Garrett, reach out to him. If you have any questions, check out his Twitter page. He's got a lot of tweets out there with a lot of cool things happening. And so he's living proof that you don't have to have a coding background. He did not have a coding background. He just learned everything on his own, just using YouTube and Twitter and everything else. So, if you are interested and you think your kids would be interested, you could do it. So it's pretty cool. So enjoy this episode for CS Week, third installment of the METC Podcast with Garrett Gross from Chicago, talking about Sphero and coding in the classroom. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the METC Podcast, special for CS Week. I have a special guest, Garrett Gross, from outside Chicago, dealing with a bunch of snow up there, and he's a Sphero hero, and he's gonna come talk to us about Spheros and coding. Welcome to the podcast, Garrett.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
Absolutely. I did say your name right, correct?
Correct. It's Garrett Gross. Yes.
Okay. All right. I forget to ask before I start, so I always have to make sure while I'm in there. But all right. So welcome to the podcast. I want you're from the outside St. Louis area. Are you a Cubs fan?
I am a Cubs fan. I'm
a
diehard Cubs fan, and this is definitely an opportunity to show that we can go beyond the borders of baseball and come together as educators and be able to share and collaborate rather than get into fist fight.
Absolutely. I won't hold it against you, and I don't think our audience will either, but I just thought I'd check. I'm sure we have some Cardinal fan listeners, but we have all listeners all over the state of Missouri and beyond, so I'm sure we'll be just fine. So other than being a Cubs fan, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been teaching. This is my 11th school year, so this is my 6th school year at St. Mary's School in Riverside, Illinois, and I had 5 years of experience as a special education assistant at Bryan Middle School in Elmhurst, Illinois, another west suburb of Chicago, and I have a bachelor's degree in physical education studies, and I have a master's of arts degree in education.
Very nice. So you don't have a master's in coding?
No, I do not. I am all self-taught. I am a lifelong tinkerer in electronics. So it's not like I just began having an interest in electronics. I've had it since early childhood, building like the like ham radio, and I really was always one that like loved taking stuff apart and reverse engineering it, seeing like how and why things worked, but no formal training. But since then, I have gotten more into workshops and formal classes, but ones that are available to all educators, and most of them for actually free.
Okay, very nice. So I'm excited. Obviously, he is a Sphero hero, so you can guess that we're going to be talking about Spheros. But first, before we get into that particular resource, we're going to talk about some general questions here. And I want to get Garrett's take on a couple topics here. So, Garrett, why do you feel it's important to introduce students to coding?
I think because of the fact that this is the way the future is for these students, where you have them entering a workforce that will consist of jobs that don't even exist today. And you have so many different forms of communication that are unparalleled to how they used to be. And, things are moving so quickly nowadays that you want students to be prepared for the future at an earlier age, because of how fast things are changing, that they need to be able to adapt with it. And before, you could introduce someone to what they could be doing as a career in high school or in college. But now, you really need to introduce it to them at an earlier age, because there's so much more to it, and it's evolving so quickly that you want them to not be introduced to these things for the first time when they're already, in high school.
Yeah, I think that, it's a common argument that, if we don't know what the jobs are going to be, then why do we have to choose coding? And, my response typically is, let's take a look at teachers that are teaching now that maybe did not grow up with just a general computer, mm-hmm. and their ability to integrate computers in the classroom. Not to say that they can't, but it's definitely harder for some of them, right? And I think it's the same kind of idea. So it's not like if we wait till high school, middle school, or high school or college for them to start learning coding that they couldn't do it. They definitely have a better understanding the earlier they learn these skills, because everything that's going to run on a machine is going to need to be coded in some way, shape, or form, right? And so that's only going to get to be a bigger workforce needed for that. So I think that's a good point.
Right, and you're not just having them, learning these advanced concepts at a young age. You're introducing it slowly, just as you would with math to the students. They're going to start learning. I mean, my toddler daughter is learning addition just based on the things that she interacts with every day. 3 Lego blocks, in one and one is 3. You have constantly, them surrounded by sorts of problems where they have to solve them in unique ways. And coding is a perfect example of how you can, solve larger problems using outside of the box thinking and be able to think critically. And that's what I love about it the most, that it teaches, and it really encourages students to think critically in a way that maybe they had not in the past, and it unlocks something for them.
Awesome. So you've already kind of one-upped me there. You said you've got your daughter counting with Legos. My daughter was counting tonight with marshmallows and chocolate chips for dessert. So I think I need to pull away the desserts and start getting out the Lego blocks there and do that counting with that. So, all right. So you've done a lot of coding activities with your students, obviously. And so how do you see your students respond to these kind of activities?
It varies. Some of them have the more of the attitude right away when they see it on like the screen with like all the text and stuff like that, like the more traditional JavaScript look. And they've seen now the wizard behind the curtains. They've seen what's under the hood. and their hands just go up in the air and they're like, I can't do this. You know, they have that mindset. And I'm like, ask them, I'm like, well, why do you think you can't do this? And it's just too much. It's just, you know, I don't understand any of it. And it's just how they're looking at it. They're looking at it in a way that kind of like if you were to look at a textbook that was written in a language that you did not understand. And it, like a Spanish textbook or a French textbook. And it's intimidating at first, but if you break it down and you start looking for maybe some like key things that you do understand, you know, key vocab words, or you look for structure in a way that maybe like you do begin to understand what's kind of being said there, or, you know, pictures associated with it, you can start to decode it, and you can start to you know, decipher it in a way that then you're able to understand it and then build off of that. And when you get past that, you know, intimidation with it, when they have that first like aha moment of you know, of solving, even if it's like just a simple puzzle in the beginning, that can be right there, like that instant moment that turns them on to coding. And some of them that I've had that have really disliked it in the beginning, it may have just been what they were coding. And so it's kind of like you could have someone that loves music but hates the instrument that they're playing. And so maybe it's not, then it's finding that different instrument. Maybe they don't like the flute, but maybe the guitar like really clicks with them. Yes, it's both music, and yes, you know, there's rhythm and notes and everything associated with it that overlaps one another. But man, what a difference it makes then, you know, like strumming strings instead of, you know, blowing through a mouthpiece to make music. And it just clicks with some people. And when I find people that, or students that, you know, if they're coding music, like with some of the activities like Google has out there, code.org, Scratch by MIT, that just clicks with them. And then all of a sudden they're just turned on by it so much that they want more. And I love that. I love just finding it of like finding a way for them to express what interests them, but by using code as that primary language.
Now, I like a lot of the points you just mentioned, two of which in particular. So not be intimidated by the whole picture, basically break down the picture. And I would kind of relate it to a 1,000-piece puzzle, right? If you're looking at the 1,000 pieces all scattered on the table, it looks impossible. But if you start small, pick a corner of the puzzle, start there, you can get going. And I get coworkers that are intimidated by me from a tech standpoint because they see all the integration, all the stuff that I can do. But they forget that I've been doing this for 15 years, right? And I didn't just build it over time, over the last 15 minutes. You know, I add on every year. And so I help educators all the time say, don't do everything at once. Choose one or two goals. Start small. Do you want to start screencasting? Start creating videos that way. Then let's start there. Don't look at everything I'm doing. Choose one or two that you really like, and let's focus. So I like that point that you made there. The other point that I like is the fact that there's so much to coding that there's so many different facets of it, right? And you said you compare it to sports or to instruments. I'd compare it to sports. I played soccer growing up in elementary school, hated it. Did I not play any more sports? No, I went and tried baseball and loved it. And so just because I didn't like one particular sport does not mean I'm not going to like another sport. And so I agree with your point there on that as well. So let's get into how you integrate within the classroom, within the curriculum. So I know you do a lot of activities. It sounds like the kids have a lot of fun. Is that all you guys do is just play? Is there actually any learning going on, or do you actually tie curriculum to this?
No, I love the idea of just like learning through play. And but I you know, I have it very structured in the beginning that you know, if it's too loosely structured and you kind of just like, you know, throw it at them and, you know, just see what they can do with it, being that it is such a new you know, a new concept to them, and you want and first impressions are everything with it, that you don't want to turn them off to it because of how their first experiences with, using any sort of like, if it's Java, Java-based coding, or if it's Blockly. And it's one of those things where, you want to be able to have them, play around with like, if it's like the Blockly coding, like I mentioned, dragging and dropping different blocks, seeing what happens when they run the program, and then debugging it, and teaching them how to debug a program, like look for the problems, stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things is getting them to problem solve by finding where something went wrong and like where it broke and like how to fix it, using those investigative skills. But getting them to, kind of just explore the different types of aspects of coding through play, like if it's with like using the robotics or if it's with like building apps, but giving them a clear like objective at the end. So like if we're doing coding with using the MIT App Inventor, where the students are building their own app, one of the things that I had them do for junior high was that for Black History Month, they made a app that would play. It had a speech that was one of two speeches that was played by Martin Luther King Jr. And then if they pushed another button on it, it would then play a speech by Malcolm X. And it was really cool how they were able to program in a responsive interactive button on an app that they could install on their Android phone or run via web app on their iPhone. And then it would actually call up an MP3 file, and there's a lot of pride there for them at the end of that they literally just made an app. And so that is a perfect, fusion of, exploring a social studies curriculum, objectives with then computer science. And they did so by building an app. And, an hour before, they had never done anything like that. So it's great to be able to, have them learn by playing, but at the same time, you're giving them objectives of what you want like the end objective to be. Like, what will they end up making? What's the product there?
All right, very nice. I know we're going to get into more examples of integration with the coding within the curriculum as we talk about Sphero in general, but I like the ones that you shared there, especially when the ability to create an app and have it call up speeches for that. That's pretty cool. Something you could actually go back home and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, pull this up and check it out." That's pretty slick. So let's talk about our topic of choice now. So we're talking about Spheros. Mm-hmm. And so for those who are unsure about what Spheros are, maybe they haven't seen the commercial that's on TV lately, or they just haven't seen it within their own school. Can you kind of give an explanation of what a Sphero is, what it does, how it can be related to coding, and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that commercial that you just mentioned with the founder, Adam, on there, because it's great to see it getting more and more out there, in the media, and then it's also had such a positive effect with getting more interest generated and getting that into the classroom. It's one of many great robots that are out there. I'm particularly fond of Sphero. I've been using it for 6 years now, and it is a programmable robotic gyroscopic orb, and that's like the kind of like a baseball with a brain, that it literally has unlimited possibilities with it. What I love about it, I teach, so with my computer literacy technology job, I teach pre-K 4 through 8th grade. So I see ages 4 through 14. And to have a robot that I can use for all those grade levels is not something easy to say, because there are a lot of great products out there. But what I found with Sphero that works well for me with teaching is that all of its moving parts are internal rather than external. And so all you have then is a clean, polycarbonate structure that is waterproof. And I've done a lot of water-based activities with it. It charges wirelessly, so there's no ports that you have to worry about, having, things, break off in there. And what's great too is that it's able to have at least an hour of like time, off the charger with like active use, so that it can last easily a full class period, and I can cycle them in, cycle them out for my next classes. And it's fully hackable. By far the most awesome thing about it is that they have made it, the software developer kit with it is available for anyone to develop their own apps for it. You can use the Sphero EDU app, but then there's also other apps that other developers have made that are on like the Play Store and the App Store, and they link with the Sphero just fine. You could link with it through Google Chrome extensions, and it's on Kindle, it's on Windows, it's on Mac, it's on the App Store with the iPad, iPhone, and Android with the Google Play.
So it's very versatile product then.
Absolutely, and it is great. Like I mentioned, with all ages. I know they even use it in colleges, and it's beloved by my younger grades. Like they treat it like a little pet. It's adorable, like how they interact with it, and it has a very much like a cute factor to it, and it's not at all an intimidating sort of like, almost like that stereotypical look of like a, 1960s robot when you're talking about programming robots, or like those like Terminator type robots where you see all those like moving parts and everything. You have a nice like encapsulated device that is fully capable, but then is very easy to use.
That's awesome. Yeah. So full disclosure, I bought my first Sphero. I don't know when it was, a long time ago. But it was the original one it wasn't clear. It was like a white. Yep. And I didn't even know what it was. I bought it because it looked really fun, and it would bug the heck out of my dog.
Yeah.
And so I took it outside, and it wouldn't roll in the grass like I wanted to. So I actually sent it back. And how silly was I? I didn't even know what I had, but I wouldn't dare do that now. Because if I knew then what I know now, that kind of thing. But so let's get right into what you are doing with Spheros. You said it's very versatile. You can do it from 4-year-olds all the way up to 14-year-olds. That's amazing in and of itself. What are some ways that you're integrating Spheros into the curriculum?
Right. So I have used it where the actual like Sphero has become very much like the catalyst or the engine for my activities. So I will use the Sphero for a fun like English language arts activity that I've done with students where we do storytelling with Sphero. And there was another Sphero hero that did something really cool with redoing like Little Red Riding Hood and using the Sphero with the couple of Spheros being the characters of like the Little Red and then the Big Bad Wolf. And one thing that I did with it was so every October we do a large focus on internet safety, cyber safety and security awareness month. And with the Sphero, I used it this year with having papercraft characters on covering over the Sphero. So the Sphero we would program to either move around by coding it, or with the younger grade levels, I had them just using the joystick mode and just driving it and having the characters engage, and then like kind of like wiggle the joystick back and forth to make it look like the character was like talking or like, kind of having some gestures. And their stories were all focused on internet safety, with like addressing things with the Google's Be Internet Awesome curriculum of cyber safety with cyberbullying, being kind, being an upstander, looking out for internet scams, so like not going phishing, and being a well-rounded digital citizen. And so that goes back to like what we mentioned earlier, where they clearly they're able to express their own creativity because they're making the stories, but the stories have purpose to them. They're creating the dialogue and everything, but they are able to create a story that focuses on a very serious topic, and something that it's one thing to talk about, but then to actually have the students create the stories about something that affects their age group very much so nowadays. It's really powerful to see it come from their perspective of like what they would consider like a cyberbullying incident, and then getting to see them how with maybe like what they've learned thus far, since I've have been having them as a student, or what they've learned from their household, getting them to see like what their conflict resolution strategies are. And then we get to then record it and watch it as a class and review it. And it's cool because they are they're the director, they're also the screenwriters, and they're also the actors. And there's something that you get to see come out of their creativity when you've removed like the intimidation of them being on camera directly, and they get to have the Sphero be the actor, and they'll get to do the voice with it, or they could program it and have the computer doing the voice with it, like when they run the program. But they're not then worried about how they look on camera, and so they're able to have a much more like pure performance because they're not worried about like maybe how their peers are going to view them. And so then they're able to focus on the substance of the content, because this was something that I wanted them to have fun with it. I wanted them to create their own stories. I gave them guidelines with like what I was hoping to have them explore. Like if it was a phishing scam, I gave them some like fake internet pop-ups, like click here for free V-Bucks, because they, as most kids do, love Fortnite. And so I wanted to make it like a relevant scam. And then I wanted them to create the dialogue of like, if one of the Sphero characters came across, this contest, how would they react to it? And a lot of them had their own personal testimony of, them actually being presented with this situation. And it's cool then to see that connection to real life, and at the same time, they're sharing their testimony, and they're also making it into a creative storytelling opportunity.
Yeah, I can only imagine that sounds pretty amazing. I just clicked on the slide deck that you shared with me, and I will make sure that it gets out to the show notes if that's all right with you to share with the others. It's got the information on how they can use the Sphero within internet safety, including turning your Sphero into like a character. So that, it looks really cool. I could see that being so engaging and meaningful, and making it that much more, make it hit home that much easier. And so that's pretty cool. All right, go figure. We're on long on time here, but that's okay. This is great stuff. So I'm going to challenge you real quick. I hear all the time that this is great, hour codes. Yeah, it's cool, but I teach PE or I teach, whatever. It doesn't really apply to me. So can you think of a way that we could use Sphero in like a PE class?
Oh, absolutely. I love having kids move because the one drawback with, like, especially even with how my lab is set up, and I love having kids interact with technology, but too often do we see them, with like their heads down engaged, like glued to the tablet, and the way that they're just like so focused that it's very sedentary. And, even with like careers in computer science, there's always like a concern for a long time with like it leading to very sedentary lifestyles, and that, you're just constantly like sitting in a machine, creating code. I love with Sphero being able to have kids up and moving, especially the younger kids. I did an activity where Sphero does Simon Says, and so it will like spin around, it will wobble back and forth. There's an option to use the raw motor abilities where it basically generates so much momentum that the Sphero physically jumps off the ground. And so then the kids would hop, and it would also tell them how many times, like spin 3 times, jump twice, slide to the left, slide to the right. And so you'd have them mimicking the moves of the Sphero, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. I had to have adequate space for them. But in a gym class, I mean, I think it would be one of the coolest things to see a little, like, 2 3/4 inch robotic ball leading a PE class, and the children like standing behind it. I think that would just be one of the craziest scenes, and it's looked like that in my room, in my computer lab, and it's a hoot. Like they absolutely love it. We've also done relay races where it's kind of like a man against the machine kind of thing, or woman against the machine, and it's fun because you have you can either have a child like driving it, and then the other children chasing it. You can have it be like a keep away kind of thing, or you could pre-program it where I think like the PE activity, like doing ladders, where then it can go back and forth, and as it goes back and forth from like the half court line, if they're in a gym, it goes further out every time back and forth. And so the children could race against it, and as they're doing, like when they do like the fitness gram, and going from end to end of a basketball court, because the Sphero can roll quick. It can roll, I think, over a little over 4 miles per hour. They have another one that can go up to 14 miles per hour. It's the Ollie, and if you want to do if you really want to get the kids working, there's an Ollie Sprints program on the Sphero EDU app, and I'm a runner, and I've run multiple marathons, and it's hard to keep up with that one. So.
I'd say those are some innovative ways to use these robots, machines, in a classroom setting, like a PE classroom. It's proof that you can adapt really anything to meet your curriculum if you put your mind to it. If you have that growth mindset, if you are flexible enough and aren't afraid to try something, you can make it work. And I agree. I think that would be so cool to be able to just imagine walking in that gym and seeing that little ball doing all the exercises and having the kids mimic it. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is great because it is a tool, and it hasn't replaced me with teaching at all. It's not like I just put the Sphero out there and I'm like, okay, Sphero leads the class kind of thing. It is an essential tool though for my curriculum, and I'm sure many educators, as soon as they start using it, would agree the same, because one other activity that we did for a field day station last year was the Sphero and spoon race, and that was to substitute the egg and spoon race, and a lot cleaner of a race. The principal definitely enjoyed that one with not having like broken eggshells all over the back lawn. But the Sphero, since it can measure also collision, if it was to fall on the ground when it's on this like oversized, we used a ladle. If it fell off it would then record the impact, and it would then deduct a point from the relay team during their race. And then at the end, the very last child would then take the Sphero off of the spoon and put it on the charger. And then the charger, as soon as it detected the Sphero on it, it would stop the program and it would announce out loud the total elapsed time. And then if you had previously inputted how many people were participating in that relay, so like if it was 20 for that relay race, it would then divide it by 20 and then tell you how much like the average interval was.
That's awesome. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool. That's a field that I wouldn't be part of. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Garrett's got a bunch of other ideas that he's got here in our notes document here that I'm going to make sure that's all in the show notes at metcedplus.org. We'll get that information. He's got integrations into art, science, math, all that stuff is there. He's got links and hashtags to follow. So Garrett, I want you to remind everybody how they can connect with you, your Twitter handle, how to check out what you're doing in the classroom so they can kind of ooh and ah at everything that you got going on, and then also reach out to say if they have any questions, if they want to do that Sphero spoon race instead of bringing up the eggs, that kind of thing. So go ahead and share out your info there, and we'll kind of close it out.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at GG Tech Teacher, so GGTECHTEACHER, and also you could look for me on the Sphero EDU community. So if you go to the Sphero EDU app, or if you go onto Sphero EDU through the browser at edu.sphero.com, I am on there as Mr. Gross, and you can also like search for activities with using the hashtag of hashtag Beyond Code. That is a great way to find Sphero-based activities that don't require like the computer science know-how, and it's just like using Sphero, like one of the activities that will have linked for your listeners is with like using the Sphero to paint, like the Jackson Pollock paintings, and using Sphero for long exposure photography. Those would all fall under like the Beyond Code activities. And then also that just the hashtag Sphero or Spark, but spelled SPRK, Sphero Bolt, which is dealing with the new Sphero that has additional sensors on it. And then also Sphero Hero, which is part of their huge education initiative of bringing Sphero more and more into the classroom. They are looking for more Sphero Heroes, and the deadline for the application is December 31st. And if anything like what has gone talked about tonight interests you, and you find yourself to be someone that's doing stuff like this, definitely I would suggest to apply and be part of the Sphero Hero community, because it's a great place for us to collaborate, to share ideas, lessons, spread the words, get others involved throughout the world with integrating Sphero and technology into the classroom. I have met amazing educators from around the world, and from New Zealand, Australia. We actually all were able to get together this year at the ISTE conference and in Chicago, and it's amazing, just hub of resources and just true like idea makers and just inspiring individuals, and they want more people to be part of it. So I definitely stress people to check that out. That's the Sphero Hero, and just look on Twitter with hashtag Sphero, and you will, I guarantee you will find amazing stuff to integrate into the classroom.
That's awesome. So thank you very much, Garrett. I greatly appreciate you taking some time tonight and talking with our listeners and telling them all about coding and Sphero. I greatly appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing all the awesome things that all educators are doing, especially with the Computer Science Education Week coming up. And just keep inspiring those students, and they're going to be tomorrow's heroes.
Awesome. Thanks again, and thanks again everybody for checking out the podcast. All right, well, that brings this episode to a close. Yes, I apologize. That was a little longer than we anticipated. Well, let me correct that. It's not a little longer than we anticipated. We anticipated we would go long because Garrett's got some amazing stuff going on in his school and his classroom. We were hoping to cut it down, but there's just so much cool things going on that we just wanted to pack it all in. So hopefully you were able to catch it all or break it up into 2 sections for you. I didn't do that. Usually I break these up into 2 different episodes, but since it's a special episode for CS Week, I didn't want to do that. So apologize for the length, but it's some great stuff. So hopefully you found it very valuable. So thank you very much for choosing us for your professional development. We know that you have a lot of choices out there, and I'm honored that you've chosen to spend some time with us and learning about CS Week and coding in the classroom and everything. So hopefully you're finding everything you hear valuable, and you're sharing it with your peers and saying, hey, you know what, you should be doing this in your classroom too. Check out this podcast. We're available everywhere: iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, on our website at metcedplus.org, and many other places too. So check us out, and you can even make your own playlists on YouTube. All of the podcasts are available on our METC channel there, so you can search for us on YouTube and connect with us there too. So subscribe anywhere you would like, and you can catch all the new content as it comes out. So until the next day, tomorrow, for our next episode on this very special CS Week. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. To learn more about METC, check out our website at metcedplus.org or follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org.